Hey there folks, so let's just catch up where we are right now with this character. I could press play and I have this character that moves right, they can move left, but right now they've got a default kind of flipbook that I've assigned to them that just keeps on looping. So they just keep on firing this weapon, and obviously they're not playing the idle, they're not playing the walking animations or anything like that. So what I really need to do now is I need to look at how I can link in the animation elements to that. Now for this character I have gone through and followed all the same processes. I have the Paper ZD, which is set up with all of the individual animation sequences. So you can see here I've created each of those for it. Nothing special going on here other than the fact that obviously there's just a lot more of them than the simple warrior I previously created. And I have this animation blueprint ZD, so there's nothing in the event graph. There's this basic animation graph that says let's look at the state machine of locomotion, let's have an idle state, and then let's play the idle animation. Now why is that not playing on the character? Well, just remember that if you go into your character, you have to go into the animation component, the Paper ZD anim component. You have to go down to the anim instance and just make sure it's told which one of these animation blueprints it should be using. So now what I should see is that my character will use the idle animation and they'll slide along the floor in that idle animation. So let's get it now so that it actually uses the movement and the speed of our character to play the walking or running animation instead. I'm going to go back into my ABP, so my animation blueprint, back in the state machine, and next to idle, I'm going to create a new state. This one is going to be, if I select on it and change its name, it's going to be our walk or run, whatever you want to call it, whatever you call it on yours. And one thing to note here is that we have this arrow that goes between the two. So if you're already familiar with animation blueprints, you know what this is. This is a transition that's going to go from one animation to another, and it's going to have a transition rule, some kind of variable check or some kind of condition check that says, why am I allowed to go from one state into another? Well, the thing we've got to think about here is we can go from idle to walk, but what happens if we stop pressing the key? Well, we also want to be able to go from walk back into idle. So I'm going to drag another line like this, and now I've got a way to go from one to the other and to go back again. If I hover over, you can see by right now there's no transition options in either of those. So what we're going to need here is some kind of variable that's going to allow us to go from this one to this one and this one to this one. Now let's go back to the event graph to get that set up first. So we have this event on tick and the event on init. And on initialization, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the owning actor for this Paper ZD. And you can see here, it's going to be what is the target of the Paper ZD anim instance. So what has this assigned to it? And what I can do here is just to show you this, if I go with a print string and just take that and plug it in, you'll see that this gives us the display name. So when I print, you can see it tells me the name ZD character base. So that owning actor there is basically finding our character. It is the thing, the actor, that has this instance assigned to it. So we're going to take that, and what I could do is I could just promote that to a variable, and I could have it as a simple actor reference, and that's great if you are just literally only ever going to use things that exist in actors. But I really need to know what this thing is. Is it a character? Is it our specific character? So in this instance here, on my initialization, I'm actually going to cast to, and I'll cast to our ZD character base SS that I've got, and I'm just going to promote that to a variable. And that gives me my ZD char SS ref. And that's a reference to my character. Now, I'm not casting on tick, I'm not casting every single frame, I'm just getting a reference to my character once, and that means that because this is of the type ZD character base, it means that I don't have to worry about, how do I get access to things like, is it rolling, is it crouching, and all these other custom animations that I'm going to want to make. It also has the character movement component. So you can see, get character movement is a component that I can get, and that's going to be useful because anything that's in our character movement component we can also get a reference to. So I'm going to save that. Let's just save that with a ref as well, so I know that that's just a reference to a component or an actor element. And that's all we're going to need right now on our initialization. So I'll just move this up and out of the way. Now this is a little bit different to your normal animation blueprint. They have like their updating thing that runs every single tick. This one is just like your normal blueprint. It says event on tick. So we're still going to need to update and check every single frame, like, what values and variables do we need. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my ZD character base. I'm actually just going to do an is valid check on that, and that will allow me to check, like, does this thing actually exist? Maybe the event tick might run for a couple of frames before this initialization is finished. So this just makes sure that it can't run if not. Now, instead of this is valid, one of the things that you can do is if you have a reference to an actor, you can right click it and convert it to a validated get. So you can see what that does is it not only checks if it is valid and gives me the is valid and is not valid, but it also gives me the reference thing that I had by having the variable dragged in. So I just kind of prefer those when I'm working with these actor references. So what I want to do now is I want to drag off of here, and I can get the velocity. And you'll have to go all the way down to the bottom to find this. I'm going to get the velocity, which is obviously going to tell me which direction this is going in. And I can drag off of that, and I could maybe promote that if I need to. Maybe I need to, maybe use this as the direction of movement. That could be useful. So, we can always promote that up if we need it. We might need that in a side scroller, or we might need it in the top down. But I'm also going to get the length, and you see there's a whole bunch of different length options here, and I'm going to get the vector length XY. Now I know that there is nothing on the Y, we're never moving forward and backwards, but this is just going to give me then just the vector length on the x-axis. It's just going to tell me how much am I moving horizontally, and I'm going to take that and I'm also going to promote that, and I'm going to call this one speed. Now that this is grabbing this every single frame, it's accessing our character and it's just updating and saying, okay, how quickly are we moving? Put that into this speed value. Now we can actually go back to our state machine. So you can see here I've got into the anim graph, and it opens up a lot of tabs. So if you need to, go back, open it up, go all the way back to the root. You can see there's the anim graph inside the locomotion, and we're looking for the idle and walk. And what I'm going to do is in between idle and walk, I'm going to take this circle here and I'm going to double click on it to enter the transition rule. And the rule that determines whether I can go from idle to walk is get the speed, check if the speed is greater than 0, and if it is, we're allowed to go. Let's take a step back and look at the other one, and the other one could just be, is our speed equal to 0? I could do less than or equal to. Let's just do the less than or equal to. I can't imagine it's going to be less than because we'll be going in the opposite direction. But let's put that in, and that means now I have a reason to go from this one along this line if speed is greater than 0, if speed is less than. And the last thing to just remember is that this walk also needs an animation assigned to it. Now I can't remember which ones I've got. I have got a walk one. So let's put this walk one in there. And what that should mean is that if I go to my character, they're using idle. If I was to press D, they will walk. And if I press A, they'll go the opposite way. And one of the things you might be able to notice a little bit now is that little bit of camera lag as I'm moving along. So as I move along, the camera will just steadily catch back up with them. So now that you've got this movement, what you can do is go back to your camera settings again and start playing around with those. But we have left and we have right movement. So the next thing we're going to start having a look at is adding in jump functionality. So when we press a jump key, maybe we go with spacebar, our character is going to be able to jump up and down. Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing to access more of my Unreal Engine content.